In the year 2036, humanity faces a crisis of overpopulation, leading to severe resource depletion and environmental pollution on Earth. To ensure survival, scientists turn their attention to Mars, Earth's ancient neighbor. They launch probes carrying genetically engineered organisms to Mars, hoping they will thrive, produce oxygen, and create a breathable atmosphere for humans. 20 years later, Mars's oxygen levels are steadily increasing, nearing the human breathable threshold. However, one day, biological sensors detect a decline in oxygen content. As a result, a team of scientists is dispatched to Mars to investigate. The mission commander is Alice, a biologist, and the rest of the team comprises experts in various related fields. They are accompanied by a robot dog named Pathfinder. Soon after, their spacecraft separates from the space station, and they embark on their journey to Mars. After more than 6 months of travel, the spacecraft reaches its intended orbit around Mars and locates a suitable landing site. As they prepare to deploy the landing module, the spacecraft is suddenly hit by a powerful solar storm. The intense gamma rays cause significant damage to the vessel. A calm glass instructs everyone to quickly enter the landing module, while he stays behind to manually assist their detachment. However, they soon discover the landing module's positioning system is also damaged, forcing them to switch to manual control. They jettison the landing gear, which contains the robot dog, and deploy the shock-absorbing airbags. The module crashes hard on a cliff edge, tumbles down the slope, and after several bounces, finally comes to a halt. The fortunate survivors stand on the surface of Mars, but they must now face reality. They've lost contact with the spacecraft and are far from their intended landing zone. They consult their map and identify the location of the bioengineering laboratory, which holds ample oxygen supplies and food. They must reach it before their oxygen runs out. One team member is severely injured during the landing and unable to walk, so they are reluctantly left behind. The remaining 4 head towards the base, growing increasingly uneasy about the desolate surroundings. It's perplexing why there are no traces of the algae that had been cultivated for 20 years. They continue forward, filled with questions. Upon reaching the base, their excitement turns to despair. The entire base is in ruins, appearing to have been abandoned for a long time. With nothing to sustain life, their oxygen levels are rapidly dropping, leaving them with no choice but to sit and await death. Stranded on a desolate Mars, the scientists, deprived of oxygen, sit in despair. The algae cultivated for years has vanished without a trace. They no longer have the energy to uncover the truth, as their oxygen supply is almost depleted. They begin a countdown to their own lives. Peter, whose oxygen is expected to run out first, suffers excruciating pain and collapses to the ground, struggling. Just as he loses consciousness, Peter instinctively removes his helmet. To his astonishment, he can breathe. He quickly turns to inform his teammates. Disbelieving, they also remove their helmets and take deep breaths of Mars's air. They are puzzled, however, as previous tests indicated low oxygen levels on Mars, and the surroundings are barren with no oxygen-producing algae. Unable to explain this phenomenon, they decide to first try and contact Alice on the spacecraft as soon as possible. As night approaches, they decide to rest where they are. The Martian night remains cold. To warm themselves, they ignite the abandoned base. Meanwhile, the robot dog they had jettisoned earlier discovers their location. Peter, relieved to have it back, checks its condition, finding its internal chip severely damaged. He considers destroying it to retrieve its internal navigation energy source. Hearing their intentions, the robot dog immediately activates its combat mode, knocking the 3 scientists away. Bowen picks up a steel rod, but it's like cutting sausage to the robot dog. It advances on Bowen, precisely targeting him and breaking one of his ribs. It then returns to its original body and leaves. It turns out the robot dog triggered its drill mode for self-preservation, and upon its return, it intends to go on a rampage. Their situation has become even more perilous, and they need to find a way to escape quickly. After a long journey, they discover an abandoned probe vehicle, dismantle its radio, and successfully contact the spacecraft. When Alice learns of their plight, she explains that the spacecraft is severely damaged by the solar flares and cannot launch a rescue capsule. Their only remaining option is to walk 100 kilometers to find the Cosmos lander from 30 years ago. Simultaneously, Mars 1 has limited fuel and cannot maintain orbit for long. With only 19 hours left before it must return to Earth, Peter and his team need to reach the lander as quickly as possible. With time running out, the 3 scientists quickly set off. Trapped on an uninhabited Mars, they are also hunted by a rogue AI robot dog. To escape Mars, they must walk 100 kilometers to find the landing module. To make matters worse, Alice on Mars 1 discovers a Martian dust storm forming directly in their path. With temperatures plummeting to 50 degrees below zero, they desperately need to find shelter. The storm arrives, but luckily there's a cave nearby, and the 3 take refuge inside. Outside, the robot dog also arrives, glaring menacingly at them. Due to the intensity of the storm, It's forced to abandon its attack. At this point, Peter reveals a secret. The Cosmos lander can only accommodate 2 people. He chooses to stay behind to distract the robot dog, allowing Jerry and the other person to escape. However, the treacherous Jerry has other plans. Soon after the storm subsides, the 2 remaining scientists awaken to find Jerry gone. He has taken the radio, intending to escape alone. But he doesn't get far before encountering the vengeful robot dog, which quickly kills him. Peter and the other scientist are left to retrieve the radio from Jerry. On their way, they suddenly encounter a large patch of algae. Bowen also discovers numerous worms around Jerry's body, identifying them as a type of nematode. He quickly collects samples, realizing this is a significant discovery. He speculates that these nematodes are consuming the Martian algae to produce oxygen, explaining why there's breathable air despite the sparse algae. But they don't get far before Bowen discovers his spacesuit has been bitten through by the nematodes. Instantly, countless nematodes are drawn by the scent of blood, swarming around him. Realizing escape is impossible, Bowen throws the samples to Peter and then ignites the worms beneath his feet. A massive shockwave instantly radiates outwards from him, even observed by Alice in space. Now only Peter remains, and the sudden vacuum of oxygen almost causes him to faint. Struggling to stay conscious, Peter continues onward and finally reaches the lander at the last moment. With Alice's help, he successfully activates all the lander's equipment. However, Peter falls into despair once more. Due to its age, the lander's ignition battery is dead, and there's nothing around to ignite it. At this moment, Mars 1 also begins to adjust its orbit to return to Earth. A disheartened Peter uses the radio to recount everything that happened on Mars to Alice and confesses his long-held affection for her. The 2, in silent understanding, cherish their remaining time until the spacecraft adjusts its orbit and they lose contact. A desperate Peter can only await death. Just then, the drone released by the robot dog arrives at their location. Peter has a sudden idea. The robot dog has a high-voltage battery. He quickly sets a trap and waits for its arrival. Soon after, the vengeful robot dog silently appears before Peter. After a scan, it directly attacks but triggers the trap, instantly exploding into pieces along with the drone. Peter successfully retrieves the battery and activates the lander. With powerful thrust, he departs Mars. But halfway, he loses power. Looking at the distant Mars 1, he faints. At this moment, Mars 1's alarm sounds. Detecting the powerless lander, Alice quickly puts on her spacesuit, measures the distance using infrared, and then releases a cable. Flying towards Peter, using the retrieval power, she drags the Cosmos lander back with her. Through her efforts, Peter is successfully rescued. Now only the 2 of them remain from the entire team. After enduring numerous hardships, they have finally completed their mission, piloting the spacecraft on their journey back to Earth.